920 kilometres.
Just a nice easy ride up the road, 920 kilometres. You think, okay, this is not so bad, we'll get up. If we can get going early, that's perfect. 900 k's down the road, what a nice, easy, beautiful day. Right in the southern Spain, that's perfect. But the day starts fairly early with getting up and all the rigmarole involved in the race, and that we didn't get to start till about 11 o'clock in the morning, I think, just through all the promotional and marketing side of the event and getting it out of Barcelona. I think it was 0 degrees by the time we got to Granada that night, about 10 o'clock at night. It was just a very, very long day. Freezing conditions driving through the mountains, getting into Granada. There was sort of snow on the side of the road and extremely cold. By the time then we just got the bikes organised, found the hotel and got into bed. It's like well after midnight, so you know, the first day of Dakar's like an 18-hour day, and that's just set the scene, I think, for the rest of the race.
It was also for you a real taste of, you know, us and them, the factory guys and the privateer guys, because all the factory guys fitted road tyres to their motorcycles, and you guys had desert tyres.
Yeah, that's it. That's certainly one of the luxuries. Obviously, the factory boys get. You know, they ran the Prologue wheeled straight in, put motard type wheels in with road tyres. It's not a big thing, but it just, you know, makes them roll down the road a little bit easier, a little bit smoother on you. A lot of them put their road helmets on, put, you know, ride bike gloves on, all the gear. They could rug themselves up properly, and you know, they were set to do it. And it was just like jumping on a road bike and going for a ride.
Stage 3. January 2nd, how was that day? I mean, on your special, you made up a lot of time.
After the 18-hour day the day before, once again, it just turned into a hugely long day. It was up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get organised for the special, which was just right adjacent to Granada on some military area there. It was just like a big graded track for 10 kilometres or so. It was an excellent little stage, very, very dry and dusty, quite slippery, but very, very dry and dusty. It was no problems. We got through that stage extremely well. I was 6th fastest on the stage, so that just helped us, lift some times, and that raised my confidence a great deal from the day, from the prologue, that we were sort of in amongst them, sort of time-wise, as far as we weren't too far out of touch. That's for sure. I think it was only down 9 or 10 seconds on Fred Nignay's fastest time, so it was excellent. And then 600 kilometres. So you think, okay, 600 kilometres, that wasn't too bad, but it was 300 k's to the tip of Spain. We then had to wait around, embark on a boat. We did all the custom stuff on a boat to go into Africa, across to Africa. It was pitch black by the time we got off in Africa that night. We still had another 240 kilometre liaison down into Africa after that. So once again, it was 10 o'clock at night before we got to the second overnight stop. So the second day became an 18-hour day as well.
I guess coming into stage 4, 3rd of January, anticipation was probably building amongst all the competitors. Looking forward to getting to Africa, and this special test was supposed to be 123 kilometres, a total distance of 666 k's, but it wasn't to be. You sort of woke up in the morning and there was fog.
Yeah, that's
thick fog.
That's it. We left at probably 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I think first bike left to do the liaison stage out the road of 100 and something k's. It was not too bad when we first left Parc Fermé, but then as we got closer to the start of the special stage, fog rolled in, became very, very difficult to see. Then the sun came up, and by the time we got to the start of the stage didn't seem too bad, but apparently the fog had rolled in back at Parc Fermé then. Choppers were on the ground, couldn't get off the ground. They're a very, very important safety issue part of the bike, certainly the bike field. Without the choppers in the air, they had no choice but to cancel the stage for the motorcycles. Cars did come and race through later on once the fog lifted. It was a stage that I think we would have liked as Australians. It was northern Morocco, a lot of tracks, I suppose, very similar to what we might find here. Very good two-wheel tracks through some sort of rocky, dry area, and some nasty little bits and pieces, but we got to ride through the stage, even though we weren't racing, and it would have been a pleasant little stage, but yeah, it was only 100 kilometres long and was a good lead into where Africa was going.
Stage 5, 4th of January. Great day for you. You want to tell us about this day?
Probably my most memorable day, I think, from the rally. There's no doubt about that. One I'll probably treasure for a long time. Obviously, I won the stage. which from a personal point of view, getting to Dakar and finishing the race and finishing 6th was fantastic. But to go away and say we won a stage at Dakar, you know, is from a personal point of view, you know, I guess the best thing. It was a good day. We started very hard, went out really hard right from the start. We had a couple of 100-kilometre liaison, I think, at the start of the day. So it was once again a long day, cold, dark when we started, left and got to the start of the stage. Went really hard right from the start. I actually had a couple of moments early in the stage where I hit some double cautions, a little bit quicker than I really should have, and that I was lucky to get away with it. I think in hindsight now, looking back at them, they weren't bad moments as I was way out of control, but they could have potentially been if I wasn't ready to react on them.
Because it was very rocky there, wasn't it?
It was very rocky. We rode through a few stages that were extremely rocky and extremely tough, but the couple of moments I had were on some fairly high speed stuff where there's a water washaway running out onto the track, and I was, you know, just a little bit, say, on the wrong side of the track of where I should have been, and I just hit them a bit harder than I would have liked to have, and things like that. So things that could drag you down fairly easy. I caught the third of the Spanish riders, Jordi Duran, and passed him, so that obviously put me on a high straight away, and I was very, very happy with that. I then proceeded to sort of catch on to Frentigny and had a really good run through the entire event. The first, or the refuel, I had a bit of concern there because there was a rear tyre was showing a bit of destruction, and I was a bit concerned about that as how it would hold up for the rest of the stage. And I actually nursed it from there on a little bit, and I physically stopped once and checked the thing. I thought it might have been giving me a problem, and I actually slowed down and rode with Frentigny for a little while on some of the faster stuff. He actually left me in some tight stuff, and then I caught him up on some fast stuff again. So I was really surprised when I got to the end and found that we'd actually won the stage.
In 2004, you know, you had a great day where you had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows where you broke your ankle. On this day, you won that stage, but you copped a 17-minute penalty.
Yeah, it was, I guess, similar sort of feelings. We got to the end of the stage, and that my GPS showed that I had sped in one of the villages. I was aware of that at the time, and I did know that. It was in a liaison stage. 5 o'clock in the morning, pitch black, you're coming into a little town or little village. It's like slowing down for like an 80k zone or something like that. You don't know where these zones are other than on your GPS. It was just a little bit green of me learning the GPS, not looking at it hard enough. I was watching my trip master. My trip master said I still had a couple of 100 metres to go. That was slightly inaccurate. I rode into the zone just a bit too far before I slowed down. I didn't speed through a village. I didn't really do anything wrong. It was worth, I believe, a minute penalty, not 17, but it's all related to the speed. We were extremely angry with that, and very, very disappointed we were going to, you know, maybe receive a penalty. However, initially it looked as though that may not happen, and it never showed up on the score sheets. And the next day or two there was no sign that we were actually going to receive a penalty, and we thought it had been attended to in what we thought was a fair manner. The situation looked at and believed that you know, no penalty was warranted, and that's what we thought had extended from the crime, I suppose.
A good result for you that day anyway, just winning. Good feeling going to bed that night?
It was a little bit of a mixed feeling. It was a good feeling. It was amazing how many people came up, congratulated. You know, to have people like Fabrizio Mioni and Mark Comer and people actually come up, congratulate you, and that it's the first stage win on an African rally. So it was a great result for us. It was a little bit of reservation knowing that the following day we would be leading the field, because the way the rallies work is if you win today, you are first away tomorrow. It's not on overall positions. Knowing the next day we would be leading the field, we would be leading into the start of the sand dune country in Mauritania. Was a little bit reserved for me. I'd spent a bit of time over the last 18 months thinking about being the first bike into some of this sand dune country. It's just country that's just so unforgiving and so vast. I've certainly had some scary thoughts thinking about over the last 18 months, that's for sure.
Belief from yourself, but also belief in, you know, other people, you know, set up and took notice of what you were doing now?
I think without a doubt it made people suddenly think, okay, we were a couple of days into the rally and we weren't going to go away. There's a lot of riders that maybe have a day, or certainly in the rally, or up there and then disappear from the sheets or crash out or for some other reason go out of the race. And I suppose this happens every year, but to then after a couple of days, be still in there, then win a day. I think everybody suddenly started to think, hey, what's this? And I know there was a few interviews done with some of the factory riders at that point in time saying, well, what about this guy? Do you think he's a bit of a threat, or how are we going to go? And I know Fabrizio's comment at the time had been, oh yeah, we've had all this before, but well, let's wait till we get down in the sand dunes of Mauritania. That's where the race is won and lost.
Andy, stage 6, 5th of January, you were leading out. You mentioned before that you were extremely nervous. You'd had dreams about this. You'd had, thought about it a lot, and the moment had finally arrived. How was it? How'd you get through it?
It started to pan out okay. We did the same little nasty bit of liaison to get into Mauritania as we did last year, which was 100 k's down a dreadful little road lit by lanterns with instructions saying don't get off the course because there's landmines, all of this sort of thing. So it's a bit of intimidating sort of area. There's no doubt about that. The entrance into Mauritania is a track width, and that is it. There is military guys around, and it's a very strong presence sort of driving down through there and into there. Started the stage into Mauritania, absolutely flat out fast stage. I didn't ride the thing full gas. Mark Comer caught me by the first refuel, which is I think about 220 kilometres into the stage. We had pulled out 5 or 6 minutes on the rest of the guys, the rest of the riders by then, so we were both quite happy with our position then. He also felt a little bit green going into the sand dune country, so we were quite happy to have had that little break by the time we got there. Got down into the dunes, and everything was going okay. It was only a very small dune, 10-foot tall, I suppose, and I just got caught on the top of it. Just didn't quite make it over the top. Dragged the bike down backwards, and I just had a lot of difficulty picking the bike up in the soft sand, and it took me a long time to get going. Eventually got the thing going and chased off after the tracks. By then Comer had long gone. And eventually I came across Alfie and Cyril and a couple of other riders, I think. So I sort of salvaged it and rode with them towards the end of the day. Overall, concept of the day and itself, it was not too bad a result, but it got me back into certainly riding in the dunes. So it was pretty scary, I guess, to start with. I did tear a calf muscle trying to pick up the bike, which was a worry that night. But overall, the day didn't turn out too bad at all.
Were you relieved to be passed in the dunes? Was it a relief in that that now I can follow a track, or I can see a guy and see how he's going? Or
there's no doubt it makes you feel a bit better and have a bit of insurance of having another track there, thinking, okay, I'm on the right way, but there's another track there as well. I rode for quite a while into the dunes before I got stuck on the first one, and Mark Comer rode with me, so that was a bit of backup to know that he was quite, I guess, happy with my navigation. He felt confident that we were going the right way and quite happy with it.
Would he stop and help you?
He didn't, had no intentions. I rode straight on past. One of the things that does intrigue me is we'll come to a sea of dunes and our arrow points directly straight across them. And full well there is absolutely no way you'll get a vehicle or a bike across there. So you've got the choice of going left or right. Now, how do you pick which way? And I guess experience in that country and these guys having done so many rallies and riding in this country all the time, that's where maybe they can pick the best route and which way to go.
But bearing in mind, like if it's a centre line, you've only got 3 kilometres to the right and another 3 kilometres to the left. How do you know when you've gone outside that area? I mean, you just head right or head left, and
our GPS will tell us how far off the centre line we are. The direct route from waypoint to waypoint, it'll tell us how far off we are, so we know once we're starting to get towards the outside of the scope of that. But it could be the luck of the draw can certainly come into it, where 3 or 4 bikes will go this way and you'll think, no, well, I think this is a better run this way. And just by going the opposite side of a dune, you may get down onto a big flat area between the dunes and make up a heap of time. Or you may get bogged into a place that takes you 10 minutes of getting out of. So there is certainly a real luck of the draw. So at times, I'll follow other tracks in those situations, not because I'm worried about going another way, but because I know if they've gone in there and they've got stuck, I'm not going to necessarily lose time to them. We'll all be on the same basis.
Andy, stage 7, 6th of January, significant for you because it was a milestone that you passed. Like, this was where you got to in 2004. And again, there was a lot of camel grass out there and that sort of stuff. Were you mindful of this time? Were you like really watching where you're going?
No, that was completely out of the mind. it was certainly a little bit different country. It was the same sort of vicinity, same time span into the race, but certainly a little bit different country. It was very difficult with the sandstorms had started. We had a lot of sand and dust in the air, which made visibility really difficult, and it was just a really long stage, really difficult stage for those reasons. And then it turned into a lot of camel grass as the stage went on, and then the last 60-80 kilometres was just an absolute nightmare with camel grass.
On this stage, you had to do a refuel, and that only allowed you to have 20 litres. Were you mindful of that going up to that fuel stop in terms of conserving fuel, so you had more to get you through to the end?
It was something I didn't know about, and whether it was my fault that I didn't know about it, I don't know, but it seems like there's just a massive amount of other riders that weren't aware that they were only going to give us 20 litres of fuel at each refuel. So if you started the stage with just enough fuel to get to the first refuel, which obviously a lot of the guys might tend to do, and so on, by the time we got to the last refuel, 20 litres was not enough to get to the end of the stage. I put a little bit, ran a little bit extra in right from the start. The first refuel, I think I was maybe lucky enough just to get a little bit more than 20 litres by the time we realised they were only supposed to be 20 litres. I think I just got a few litres, and that might have just been enough. But then by the time I got to the last refuel, 20 litres was enough to get me home. So it was a bit concerning, but I knew knew we'd get home. But 20 litres at that last refuel, if you were already close to empty, wouldn't have been enough.
Mate, you were lucky to make it home because the majority of the field didn't.
I think by 6 o'clock the next morning there was only something like 60 or 80 bikes that actually arrived into T-Shit, and we got there pretty close to dark as it was, and we'd been on the bike for 10 hours, and we were up the front of the field going as fast as anyone is going to go. So I couldn't imagine how bad a stage it would have been for any of the guys at the back of the field. We went to a parc fermé half a kilometre away and stayed there the night. Then as the night progressed and it realised there was so many people not getting in, and then we got into the next morning, there was talk first of all the next stage would be reduced. That later the following morning, once we got up and realised the full situation, they then decided to cancel the stage. So then the pressure was taken off for working on the bikes. We changed an air filter on them, which we had a spare in our pocket, and basically rode away.
Stage 9, day 8, Dakar to Attar. Pretty amazing sort of a day. Very windy.
It was a tough day. I think every day on the Dakar has its own stories and things, and one I can vividly remember for the wind, to start the day, and conditions were very difficult. We got to a point, I think it was something like 60 or 70 kilometres into the stage, where we turned into these dunes, and our GPS just said, travel always north, just keep heading 0 degrees, head north, and it seems like a fairly easy instruction, just follow it to that point, but I lost the tracks in front of me. I didn't, and then you start to get concerned to where you are, and maybe you're completely off track. It's fine just to be doing that, but sometimes you think 100 metres this way there may be a perfectly good track to get onto, and you just don't know. I headed off where I thought was the right direction. Frantignay's track was gone in front of me as well, and the other 4 riders a little bit further on, another 5 or 10 k's into the dunes, I suppose. The 4 riders came in from, I think 3 or 4 riders came in sort of from the left back onto the course of where I was. So I felt pretty happy that I was certainly on the right path, and fairly confident that we're headed in the right direction. We then got into a sea of dunes that there would have been no way out of. Like, it was just a very difficult situation, and I felt we needed to go far to the right around them. I just felt we were too far left on the course, and we ended up going this way, and by then there was a few other riders who caught up to us as well, and we got into a bit of a group, and basically just rode in a group from there through to the finish.
Was that the turning point for you as far as your GPS navigation is concerned? Because you decided to break away from the group, Alfie Cox went with you. Was that, in your mind, just the point where you suddenly felt a lot more confident in your own ability in the dunes?
It's a point where I think I felt like I'm quite capable of maybe making those decisions, and a lot of it does come down to common sense and being able to read the GPS and the road book and collate all the information together. The information they give us is quite good. Sometimes it's not that clear trying to put it together at race speed when you're not thinking all that clearly. I don't know that it has completely given me confidence in it, because I just haven't done enough of it. But it certainly has allowed me, I guess, the feeling to think that we could nearly tackle it and take it on, and just about go with instinct and give something a go if we needed to get in somewhere.
Stage 10, January 10, first one after the rest day, a loop, Attar to Attar. You know, it was 483 kilometres. It was only a short liaison, and then basically out into the dust and into the dunes again.
Yeah, it was a bit of concern to be probably one of the worst stages of the rally, or one of the tougher stages of the rally. Attar to Attar loop, we were told it was going to be a lot of sand, 400 and something kilometres. You think, oh, it's not so bad, but knowing it was going to be a lot of dune country, a lot of dune crossings and a lot of sand. So not a day that I was looking forward to a great deal. I really wanted to get out of Mauritania and out of the sand. And I think it turned out a day where Cyril really clinched the rally. He poured a lot of time on everybody this day, and basically took it away from there.
You had a small fall, you got bogged, and you also stopped to help Coma, who was out of fuel.
Yeah, all fairly minor things. You know, it was just a fall which was certainly, you lose 30 seconds or a minute or whatever, just getting yourselves all. When I got the thing bogged, it took me a while to dig it out. The front end just went straight in, and I couldn't get the thing out. It took me a while to get out of the thing.
Getting bogged, let's really